So let's go to Ryan N here. You're up next, sir. Ryan, you there?
Yeah, so pretty much your favorite place, the Encore Boston, just a floor ruling. Once it happened, I was like, "Oh, Bart's gonna love this."
Yeah, I think
Um,
I remember this one too, and I have some strong feelings about it. You can just walk us through the hand really quick.
yeah, the hand's nothing too special. It's 1-3 at the
Hmm.
Boston Harbor, 500 effective.
Yeah.
Some context is this is during high hand hours,
Okay, so there's a
and
bonus going on.
right, and it's an
Uh,
OMC is the main villain.
yeah.
So I'm in the small blind with 8-9 of diamonds. Uh, Cutoff opens to 10. I just call in the small blind. Hijack calls. The hijack is the main villain.
Hijack
Uh,
limped before or
Limp
something.
calls, yeah.
Okay.
And the flop comes 7 of spades, 7 of clubs, 8 of spades. So I've got top pair, backdoor, uh, straight draw.
All right, so you flop top pair.
Yep.
Okay.
The hijack leads for 10.
So you check. Hijack
Yep, I
bets
check.
10. Okay. Yep.
Hijack bets 10.
Yep.
The cutoff calls, and I
Hmm.
call.
All right, hero overcalls. Okay, so now it looks like we're maybe at like $60 or something.
Yep.
Okay.
Turns 9 of hearts. Uh, I check. Hijack checks. The cutoff bets 25.
Okay.
And here's where like this stuff starts happening. The hijack calls out of turn.
Okay, so hijack
Um,
calls out of turn. Okay.
yep. But it was like a second before I called. Like I had cut
Okay.
my chips out and I was about to call. But he called out of turn. The dealer didn't say anything to him, but like noticed it.
Hmm.
And then the river
So
is
you call.
yep, I call.
Calls out of turn. Hero calls, and now the pot's like 135, and I assume this is going to come into play where maybe the cutoff doesn't realize you're in the hand or something because of that out of turn action.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the river is the 6 of spades. So
Okay.
flush gets there, it's 4 to a straight. The hijack bets just 20 here into like, 135. The cutoff thinks for a little bit and folds, and then the hijack throws his hand into the middle
Okay. I got
uh,
you. So
before I
hijack bets.
call.
Right. So hijack is probably the one that didn't really realize you were in the hand somehow, or it didn't click, right? When
Right.
he called out a turn, he bets really small, cutoff folds, and you call before he throws his hand
I
in,
did
or
not call yet. I
okay.
haven't acted yet.
Okay. So hijack bets 20, cutoff folds, hijack throws his hand in. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
And he's sitting in the 5 seat, which is the one right across from the dealer at Encore, and he throws it to the left of the board, but like directly at the muck, but not into it.
Okay.
And that's kind of relevant because the dealer puts his hands on the cards and pushes them back to him. And I I stopped and I said, "Whoa, like what's going on?"
Uh-huh.
He just folded,
Yep.
like uh and then the dealer said, "No, like, he didn't know." And I said, "All right, let's stop it right there." And I called for the floor.
Hmm.
And I just want to get like what do you think should happen here? Like,
Well, all right. So we had a similar call to this. We had a similar situation. I don't know, a few like non-hand calls back where it's kind of the dealer's fault. And I went into this in that non-hand call too before. I don't remember what it was specific, but I do remember a situation where a guy really mucked his hand, and it's the dealer's responsibility to put the hand in the muck. And you don't see this a lot in no limit hold'em, but I used to see it all the time at high stakes, high low games where a guy would like, because it's a chop pot game and there might be a low out there, and a guy would go to muck his hand, right? So he'd release his hand and the hand would be in front of him, and then he would just grab it when he realized that there was like a low out there. It's one of these things where like the dealer's supposed to muck the hand. So I've seen other players get mad at the dealer because they're supposed to muck the hand, but if the guy grabs the cards in time, then the hand is live. In your situation, I it's kind of a weird one because the dealer's sort of protecting the fact that the guy doesn't see that you're in the hand, but the hand can't be dead because it's not in the muck. I would just kind of call the $20 if I were you with top two, getting 7-1 and just move along. I don't think that the floor really can do anything about it. Really, it's an odd one because of the fact that it's obvious that the hijack doesn't notice that you're there, and it's like, okay, well, hijack bets and then the other guy folds and then he tosses his hand in. As a reflex, I can kind of see how the dealer would sort of protect his hand, sort of like putting everything together like really fast. The fact that you're still in the hand and maybe he doesn't realize it. It's a little bit different and more nuanced than a situation that I was talking about, like in a split pot game, where if someone goes to muck their hand, like let's say I bet and the guy calls and I show my hand down, and the other guy goes to muck it, the dealer's supposed to muck it. He's not supposed to just sit there and then let the guy retrieve his hand, although if the guy can retrieve his hand before it's in the muck, it's live. So I wouldn't get too bent out of shape over this, and I can't imagine that the floor is going to rule or should rule that the guy's hand is dead.
I agree. I mean, it's just when a player like he threw his cards into the center. It's not like, he put them there and everything. And I think that's what like, and to me, the whole part of, getting 7-1 and it's a small pot no matter what, right? So
Right.
um the floor ruled pretty much what you said of, since it didn't go actually into the muck,
Mm-hmm.
and the cards were retrievable, that, they're live and still playing. Um and I did mention before, I didn't mention it, but I did say on the like before I called, like before the floor got over there, that I was like happy to just chop the pot and whatever.
Oh,
If that's
you threw that in
if
there?
like before the floor came over and gave their ruling,
Uh huh.
even though, because I mean it wasn't that much money anyway, but they did say, since the cards are live, are retrievable, they're still live. And then yeah, I tossed in the call and he flipped over 5-7 of diamonds, so flop trips and then river to straight, the low end of it.
I mean, let me throw a twist at you here, Ryan. Say, for example, my cards were in front of me. I was your opponent. I know it's a little bit weird because I just bet. Let's say that, for example, like I bet the cutoff folded, and then the dealer didn't realize you're in the hand, and the dealer grabbed my hand. Okay, I'm the hijack, right? The dealer
Hmm.
grabbed my hand, and then I stopped the dealer before the cards went into the muck, right? So the cards didn't go in the muck. It was the dealer's mistake. He or she was trying to kill my live hand, but I stopped the dealer before the cards were in the muck. Well, would you say that that situation is different?
I would, because the player in this situation, the difference there is the dealer doing something versus the player doing something. And it's the player's responsibility to know who's in the hand, as
Mm-hmm.
well as the dealer there. But the mistake is on the player in my situation, and the player's bearing the brunt of the consequences, if that makes sense.
I know,
Because he does, sorry, he like in every other situation, like his action constitutes a fold, right? Like throwing his cards. I know the line in Boston isn't, binding or anything, but they're over the line, and so that would be the only difference. I do see your point of, if the dealer just took them. I mean, the other player shouldn't bear any,
right,
consequence from that.
I've actually always said, and I really feel strongly about this, that I think that the floor should have discretion in these types of things. And people have come on me and they've said, well, you don't want the floor trying to like interpret intention. And part of the reason why the rule is written this way in terms of like intention, with one exception, I'll get to that in a second, is because they don't want someone trying to like interpret direct intention in a situation like this. The only time that I think intention would come into play is if somehow you like made a bet and the guy tried to like fake muck his hand to try to get some sort of reaction that somehow like got a reaction from you. Like he mucked his hand, he threw in his hand, and then you threw in your hand after he threw it in, and then he tried to retrieve it. You see what I'm saying? That's
Yep.
about the only time that a situation like this would occur. If you're playing for profit, what I would take away from this is that I don't get like really like razzled up that much about these types of situations. Just like I think that, a lot of people calling string raises are like a bunch of bullshit. You just try to win hands kind of straight up and don't try to look for these little technicalities necessarily to win the hand. I mean, that's my take on it. So,
Yeah, and that's fair. I wasn't. I knew I was behind, and I knew I was calling. Just because of the pot odds, because I had top two. But it was just one of those things where it's one of those rules. After the hand, someone else at the table said, "Oh, it's always been like that here," and I was like, "Well, I don't know that, because I've never been in a situation where that's happened, right? I know at other casinos in the area. Boston Billiard for specifics. If the dealer touches the cards, then the cards are deemed dead.
Is that really the rule? And
That's I've been in
I'm
a hand
asking.
once. I mean, I've
I mean,
been in a hand once where that happened at Boston Billiards, but
here's the thing to take away from this. There are no consistent cash game rules around the country. Okay.
fair.
The only time I've ever seen any type of consistent rules is in TDA, where they probably should be consistent, right? Like tournaments like the WPT and the WSOP, where they have a written rule book about these types of things. In cash games, it's pretty much a free for all. Number two, on what you're saying is that just because it was ruled that way at Boston Billiards, and I think it's called some different name now, that one time, I would not go into that Boston Billiards and think it's going to be ruled that way again, because it doesn't sound right. I believe you that's what happened, but they might have made the wrong ruling in that case. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean,
anyways.
yeah, I just wanted to get like your
Yeah,
and I appreciate it.
no problem. All right, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.